guys, and we are joined by another guest. We've got Shanae with us today. Hi. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, thanks for having me. My name's Shanae, I'm 28 and I'm from Hertfordshire. I'm a journalist / columnist. I write for The Voice, and I'm also a government policy officer, and I'm also mother to an 8-year-old boy.
Nice.
Aww.
And obviously we're talking about property today. So what's your property journey? Because obviously we've heard from these ladies, but we would like to hear from you as well. What's your journey to getting a property?
So yeah, I own a 2-bed in Hertfordshire. I grew up in London. I grew up in an inner city estate. I had my child when I was 20, and I always knew I wanted to kind of own a property for generational wealth. But I think the event that catapulted me really being like, let's take this seriously, is that someone on my road got shot, a friend of our family, innocent boy, not involved in like the local gang activity. And I remember the next morning taking my son to school and being stopped by armed police at the bottom of our roads, and they were like, oh, where you guys going? And then my son, he's in nursery, so maybe 3 or 4, and he's like, oh, mummy, they have big guns. And I said, you know what? This is not it. It's not even 8 a.m. and we're being greeted by armed police. And, you know, rest in peace, James. James was an innocent, lovely boy. So I think from there I got really serious. One thing with me is that I don't always have the discipline. So just like with my fitness journey, I have a personal trainer.
Do you know what? Thank you. Because these ladies, they are also disciplined. So it's so nice to hear. Girl, you didn't sleep.
It's true.
So I feel like I can relate. So I want to hear from you.
Yeah, no, I'm going to keep it real. I'm not that disciplined. Like, I had to unsubscribe to Pretty Little Things emails. Don't tell me about no discount codes. I'm not trying to hear about it. I had to be very focused. And you know what I did? I outsourced. Just like what I do for my fitness, because I want to stay snatched. I have a coach. I got a financial coach. So I met him and we spoke about what I needed to do. I let him know my plan. So he looked at my bank statements. The service that I got is that he reviewed my bank statements every month. So he'll be like, but you know you're only allowed to spend X in the bar. So did you think going to the cash point next to the bar would trick me? And I'll be like, oh, I took out cash for emergencies. Like, no, it doesn't work. And I needed that. I needed someone to go through my finances, go through my bank statements, and let me know what I need to be saving. And also take my money, take it far away from me, because if it's here and this guy did do a sell, now the money's gone. So I think that's what I would say. I know it's a self-investment, but I definitely would say if you lack discipline, find yourself a financial coach or an accountant and someone who gets your journey. My coach personally was a black man, and that was very important for me because he wanted to see young black people grow and accumulate wealth. So he's always been very supportive, and to this day we work together. If you can get yourself a financial advisor, definitely do, but find someone who you gel with and who gets it, not someone who doesn't understand why you need to spend X on makeup. You need to be one thing you taught me is to be honest. I like to go out, I like to drink, so let's budget for it. Let's not pretend we're not going to do it. Let's budget for it. And that's one thing that he's always taught me. Budget and plan ahead, and then we'll be able to do whatever we want.
Okay, nice. And I'm gonna come back to you ladies in a sec, but you were mentioning about financial literacy. It wasn't something that you were too good at. So do you think with our community, because I was looking at some statistics which you actually shared, and our community on average is around 20% home ownership, and compared to Indians, which is in the 75 region, and white people are around 65. So would you say that financial illiteracy is one of the biggest hindrances within our community, or would you say it's something a lot bigger than that, such as structural racism and stuff like that?
Yeah, I would definitely say structural racism has a place to play. You can definitely see where some policies that are put in place by the government, or I like to call them the Babylonians, are set against us. You can see where the disparities exist and how they've done nothing to address it. So we can't have this conversation and ignore structural racism at the same time. But what I will say is that there are some things about generational wealth that we just don't have. For example, I'm Jamaican. A lot of people in the Windrush generation bought properties for sums that we would all love to see today, but because they didn't have the literacy needed, they sold it back to councils very young. And it was this idea of, also, I think one thing that's definitely held us back as black people is that for a very long time there was the idea that we was going to go back home. Right. So I know for my parents that was a big thing. We're going to buy back home. Now they're grandparents and they're not leaving my son for love nor money. So it's like, you're here. So I think that's the thing that we need to address is always looking back as well. I'm not saying we shouldn't be making investments back home, but also making sure we're making investments here, and also having conversations about money. I think we're not good about always being very transparent and open. Even among ourselves, everyone wants to put on a brave face, make sure that we're all okay and doing well. No, if there's a question to ask, or if you're struggling, be open about it. And another thing is, when someone is in a position, like since I bought my house, I'm very transparent. Ask me any question you want. Ask me, I keep it real, like about the whole journey. But I think sometimes when in the past, if black people have made it to that level, it's like this is now a secret club and we don't want to, and we need to be more open, transparent, have the conversation and share the knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you all as well, kind of when you were going through your process to obtain property, especially you as well, Temi, you're a multiple property owner. Did you find that people were hesitant to give you advice, the ones that you did know in our community that had properties? I know you did. Did you find there was a slight hesitance, almost like a crabs in the barrel mentality?
I think for me personally, I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody. Like literally, like I said, I read a lot of books, so it's only the people in the books that are telling me what to do. That I couldn't ask anybody in the book, oh, how do you do this? I literally just did what I had to do. No. And I think for me that said enough. Like, why is there nobody for me to go and ask, how do I do this? Like, how do I, like, it's now people are coming to me and I'm like, do you know what, ask me absolutely anything, because I know what it feels like to not have anybody to go to and say, oh, how much is a broker going to cost me, or what kind of questions, or what do I have to prepare for, or what does my bank statement have to look like? It's important. But yeah, I didn't personally have anyone. Like my parents, like God bless them, they're good, and they just didn't. It's just not. I don't know. They just wasn't instilled and taught to buy property. If that makes sense, we weren't really. They were told to save, but what are we saving for? What are you saving
kind
for?
of feel as well like you felt. Obviously, in our community, it's not that common. As I just said with the statistics, like 30% Black African, 37% Caribbean. So, did you feel like, because you bought property, that's such a big deal in our community, did you feel like people were kind of treating you differently, almost like a slight jealousy or anything like that?
Really? Do you know what? For the longest time, because I'd like to say I'm quite young. Obviously, I bought my first property at 22. I'm 26 and I'm BL number 3. But it's like, for me, I used to tell people, like, don't ask me questions, I'm not going to tell you. For like, I do drive a nice car, and when people used to see my car, I used to say, oh no, my dad bought it for me. Or like with my properties, no, I wouldn't tell anybody. It's only now. You didn't tell anyone that you no, but when they asked as well, no, because because it was uncomfortable to be seen as such a successful young woman at the age that I was.
Which is a shame.
Like, for the longest time, but now, no, of course. I think for now, I'm like, yeah, no, like I did that by myself. No.
Sorry, I'm a journalist, so I'm going. And do you? Because one thing that I found, I wouldn't say I found jealousy from family and friends, but I would say men. It is an insecurity that comes from
it's
men.
Harder now.
That's going to be my next question.
Sorry, let me catch you back in mic.
Shall I wait?
Just so here, you guys are all amazing boss women. You're inspirational, aspirational, all those things. The men.
I think I was literally, we had a couple of shots during the break. I was literally just saying to the girls, that I think it's made the dating pool smaller, which is such a shame. But I feel like, you know, when you start talking to a guy, you're obviously going to ask those questions, you know, like back in the day, ASL or whatever. They'll be like, you know, do you live by age, sex, location?
I didn't know.
Now I'm showing my age, but I'm still a young, pretty thing, okay? But I feel like it's harder, like when you tell a guy, like, yeah, I live with myself, then I ask, oh, I swear, do you own? And you're like, yeah, it's my own place. Obviously, it's not the leading question, come on. Like, you'd like to think a woman will have a personality, etc. But I do feel it has made it a bit, you know, the dating pool a bit smaller. Also, in this country, you know, we don't do things, at least I don't know anyway, about like stuff like prenup. So also when you're dating, it's an asset. So already you think, even if, you know, you haven't got multiple businesses, you do think about your assets and ownership, etc. So I'm thinking, if I do have a man, you know, you do want someone who's got something as well, potentially. It's not a necessity, but you're also thinking about, I don't know if I want them to be, you don't necessarily want them to contribute because there's implications to that as well. So I feel like my brain's always ticking, which makes it difficult for me, and I'm sure for men as well who approach me, because like you said, we are bosses in our own right. I work a very good job. I own my own place, you know. So I think it does make it a lot smaller. I don't know. There's nothing else I can say other than
I think
for
it
me
does,
it's made it
but
smaller.
I think one of the reasons for that is a lot of black men, specifically, they always feel that they have to be in a certain financial position
before they
take someone very seriously
that's
or
true.
move things to the next level. And a lot of us independent women,
we're not like
we're
that.
like, you can do that when you're with me.
Facts.
But they feel, but once they see, okay, no, she's independent, she's got this, she's got that, they're like, okay, no, I need to work on myself. But then it's a good thing in a way, because they feel like I need to level up ASAP to get this girl, or. But there are some out there that don't really care. That's like, yeah, she's got her own place, I'm moving in with her.
Hell you are. You better bounce.
But a lot of
homosexual.
but a lot of African men specifically, they feel very uncomfortable moving into a woman's property without going to my business, my own personal life. My husband has a different plan for us. It's not that we live in your house, we're going to move to. I'm
all right with that, though. I would love that.
I'm all right with that.
Yeah,
Initially, I was saying, no, it doesn't make sense to move and then move. Why don't we then save for our forever home? He's like, no. So I'm like,
is he a property owner already?
not yet, but that was the plan. I buy, you buy. If we get married, we buy. But then I achieved it first. So then it was just like, okay, so he still wants to do all of that. And that's fine, he's on his way. But initially I was like, but what is the point of moving and then moving? But my mum was like, just actually makes sense, because he's like, you can do whatever you want with yours. And then,
I think that's dope.
Exactly.
Whereas some women will be like, I'm not here to stroke your ego, so this is what has to happen. But actually, in the grand scheme of things, it's just very much like, I'm going to do what I want with my house, and then you can carry on with your whole masculinity,
Do you feel like, with that in mind, obviously you're a married couple, so your lifestyles are intertwined, whether you like it or not. Do you find that with him trying to achieve what he's trying to achieve, you're also having to make sacrifices to get him there?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, he without going into so much, he's doing everything as a man, whilst doing what he wants to do to get us where he
I have
wants
to
take
respect
us.
that, actually.
Yeah, I do
In
respect
essence,
that.
I don't think it should
I do
change
respect that a lot.
anything. If you meet a man or a woman who owns their own property, it shouldn't stop you from doing what it is that you want to do. It's like purchasing anything.
I think it's just like, it's now you level up, basically. I personally think when you now own a property, even though I do have a partner, if now, let's say someone approached me, it's not really, oh, what do you have? But the categories of men I'm going for now is a little bit different, because if you're still living at home, not that there's anything wrong with living at home, but you got to bring something else to the table. And I think that's maybe why they feel a little bit intimidated or scared when you mention I am a property owner, because you're not bringing the same to the table as I am.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't need you to be a property owner too. I just need you to have vision and ambition.
Yes.
That's it for me. You don't have to be. And I found myself in situations where we're on a date, I'm trying to have fun on the date, and you're on Zoopla over-explaining yourself now. I'm not a mortgage advisor.
Trust me.
I just came for the calamari, and now we're doing too much.
And the porn star martini.
Do you know what I mean? So I don't need you to operate from that place of insecurity for me, because
Trust me.
if you have vision and ambition, as someone who's ambitious, I'll see it in you.
Yeah.
So even if you are like still living with parents, I understand why. I have a son. I knew I had to get him out of that situation, and I knew that I want him to have his own room. Plus, he was bedwetting. I'm waking up with wee on me. It's too much. I had to go. So like, my journey was different, but I do definitely think it's difficult with guys, or it's like, okay, big girl, all right.
And they don't want to ask you, oh, what did you? They don't want to ask you any question. They want to find out themselves, but you can ask.
But I think I know that's a different topic, but I think that's a black man's problem. Like, sometimes the pride is a little bit too much, and it's like, you can ask a question, you know what I mean? We can, I can help you on this journey.
I do want to say though, I don't want to stereotype all black men. I don't think it's true for all of them, but I think there is a percentage definitely who are intimidated by that. For no reason, because like I said, there's women like us who are like, you've got ambition, you've got drive, that's what's up, because I know whatever you plan in is going to come into fruition. It's very different with someone who's a bum who doesn't do anything. That's completely different. So I think it's important just to state that.
But the ambition is a different, like, there's ambition and there's walking and talking.
That's it.
And then there's actually, do you get it? Because a lot of black guys, I've got ambition, but
I think instability, really? I think it's the ability to discern. I think we really need to be careful in terms of how we describe that, because it's very important. Because there's lots of brothers that I know that are doing massive, big things, and it's actually the other way. It's women who aren't. So I think it's just what it goes back to, which is just that in our community, it can be intimidating for anybody. Let's be real. Do you know what I mean? Even amongst some of our female friends. I'll be honest with you. So like today, I'm going out after with a girl who I met on Instagram, a lovely black girl who just bought a 3-bedroom house that she's renovated on her own, solo buyer. Hanged out all my solo buyers. It's hard out here. But again, it's, you know, in terms of saying, do people feel jealous, etc. There are people out there. If they are, like these girls were helping me. I would post on my private account, like, girls, my mortgage advisor said this. Is this what you lot experience? Guys, I want to pay off my help to buy, because unlike the other girls, I did a help to buy, which is very important to note as well. There's nothing wrong with getting help from the government if that's what's going to put you on.
I got help from the Babylonians too. I definitely took their help. So I
got
help to buy
as well. So like I said, go online. If you don't know the answer, if your friends don't know, there is YouTube. There are tons and tons of people. There's financial advice on there. There's Google. There's so many blogs.
Do you know what?
Out there.
I'm going to ask you to wrap this up in a condensed way, because I want to ask you all. What are your up to top 5 tips for actually A, getting the information needed, and B, actually getting through to get the finance and stuff like that? What are the resources that you guys used, and any schemes that you took advantage of, if you can give up to 5? And do you want to start? Because
So I did a help to buy. I went to my colleagues. Actually, my manager and my colleague were in the same level. They signed my paperwork for my mortgage and everything like that as my, I don't know if they're guarantors, whatever. I don't even know what it's called.
Your manager?
My witnesses. Yeah, my manager and my colleague were in the same level, so we're both transport managers. They signed it. They were so open. It's so important. If you speak to your colleagues, most of your colleagues have bought houses, like they're English, you know what I mean? They've been there, done that on their 3rd, 4th one. So do that. Google. The internet is your friend. There's no excuse for you not to have knowledge. Even if you don't read, Google is there. Money advisor, I think there's some top money advisor guy that my friend kept on telling me about. And then I would say Instagram. Honestly, the home Insta community is massive. So add people up. There's loads of people starting accounts like saying my first home buying journey. And if you're like me, who's a solo home buyer, I would say definitely Instagram is a massive thing, because you've got other women, other men. There's not as many men, but lots of women out there who are doing exactly the same thing, so you don't feel alone. Like, just ask. I had no shame. When it came to buying a house, I put it all on the line. I asked everyone everything, because it is the most expensive thing. It's the most expensive debt you will ever have in your life. Like, when you're reading that mortgage paper, you're signing away everything. So ask as many questions. That's probably my top tip. Ask. Nothing's too much.
What about you, Stephanie?
Whilst asking, I'd probably say, don't be scared to ask your mortgage advisor anything. Like, you can ask like the most techie question, and they'll kind of like guide you to know what implicates you and what doesn't. Also, in terms of saving, I found it very difficult to save. I like to spend money so bad, so I created something called it's so bad. But I created something called a VSJ, a visual saving journey, and I speak about this on my YouTube. What I used to do kind of started at work and at home, where I would kind of so there's also something called the 50-20-30 rule, which a lot of people must know about. So that was in the background, but what I then do is from what I am able to save from, I created a visual saving journey. So what I did every month, I kind of had a specific amount that I wanted to save every month, but I had to physically write it down and watch it grow. And like, I kind of like looking at me hitting each goal kind of like helped me carry on. That was number 2. And number 3, what I would say, sometimes, this is something people don't know, so sometimes if you're kind of desperate to find a house, like I kind of was, just know that they don't take the deposit until the end. You still have a good few months to, I'd probably say 2 to 3 months plus to carry on saving. So for example, if your deposit is 30k and you had, I don't know, 27k, you can still go and find the house. And start the process, and then your deposit comes out all the way at the end, which is like a good few months later. So don't feel discouraged that you're not there yet, because I remember when I was like saving, I was like 7k, I was trying to get to 10k, for some reason, parking tickets, all these other things coming out. I'm just like, I just want to get to 10k, I get knocked back, and that 7k was there for a while. But for example, if you were very close to your goal, just know that you're not under so much pressure to get the full amount in the instant where you find the house. You can still carry on saving during the process.
I did exactly the same.
But, yeah, and the Insta home community they're really supportive. I do give a lot of information on there as well. Yeah,
so good.
So, yeah.
What I would say is, I think one of my, I would say, most important things to me was the fact that I thought that you had to like find the house first and then go through the whole thing. I didn't know that you could just get a mortgage broker at first, and like you said, a financial coach. I didn't have a financial coach, but I just went to a mortgage broker and was like, hi, like, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? So you don't have to like wait till you found the house and this and that, because to be honest, you should be doing that before. You should be getting your mortgage broker before, because then they can tell you need to save this amount or this or that or that. Don't wait until you've found the house, because you're kind of doing it a little bit backwards. Yeah, that would probably be one of my first proper tips. Yeah, that, and like a mortgage broker is golden. Like if you find a good mortgage broker, you have to keep that mortgage broker, because you can go back and ask them about remortgaging. You can ask them about you know, buying another property, HMOs, anything. You make that mortgage. My mortgage broker is my best friend. Like literally, like, you know. So finding a good mortgage broker is a good thing. And yeah, like saving, just be disciplined. Just be disciplined. Ask those questions like the girl said. And one top tip I would say is have a vision board, which is what I had. Every morning I would open my cupboard or my wardrobe and I would see my vision board, and it said, buy a house, buy a house. So every morning before I was going to work, and I hated my job, by the way, I just opened it and I saw buy a house. I need to go. Yeah. That was literally it. So have a vision board. That really helped me. And pray. Pray is the... Listen, I'll tell you one top tip I had. This is one top tip I had. My one prayer that is, you know, people say Sierra's prayer. My top prayer was, Lord, give me a mortgage from the Bank of Jesus. That was it. And I tell you, even these ladies asked, how did I get 5 years on my first mortgage, on my first one, innit? Yeah. I got a mortgage from the Bank of Jesus. That's how. Seriously. Yeah. So you've got to pray. You've got to pray.
Your anxiety, to be honest, whether you're religious or not, and you meditate, your anxiety goes through the roof.
I remember, like, at the last minute, I was still like such a donor. I'm still asking my mortgage advisor, do you think I'm still going to get a property? That's why I'm at the end. I'm at the end. And I'm still asking. So, yeah.
That's why when you get your keys, you're like, sorry, is this...
I you know, when they go, I didn't know how that. I was like, so do I really press the key and go through? Like, it was nuts.
What was the best moment? Was it actually
getting the key?
No,
getting the keys.
Getting the keys.
I'm getting the keys. It's weird.
Them leaving you there.
I don't know how you guys work was, but I walked into the estate agents and they said, "Oh, Steph, here you go." And I was like, "Do I have to sign anything? Just sign anything through the post?" They gave me the keys and I walked out in seconds. And I was just like, is that it? So do I drive home to my mum's or do I go to the house? I was so like,
yeah, me too. Yeah. I think it's the key thing. It's the key.
For me, it was my girls helped me move in, and when I must have gone to work to do something. I was on annual leave, but I went to work to, I don't know, exchange some keys, something like that. And I came back and they surprised me, and it was at that point where I was just so emotional. Like they done my flat, and that's when I was like, I just almost started crying. And it was when my friends were like giving speeches and being like, Michelle, like you've been saying this for so long and now you've done it. It was other people telling me what I had done, because otherwise, I'm not joking, the first 3 months I would wake up in my room and be like, is this mine? Like, sure, I think someone's gonna knock and be like, right, time's up, Chel, you need to go out, you know what I mean? But
it's walking into the property is when you open it, you're like,
I still have days that sometimes. I like this. This smells really good. This is mine. Like, I think that's what it is for me.
It's a good feeling. It's a very good feeling.
So I jumped questions there. What would you say were your top tips first, and then the best part of owning a property?
I think my first tip is, I think definitely, so obviously these talk about like collecting the keys. I think don't say anything to anyone until you collect the keys. And it's not because of bad vibes. Cool, yeah, there's bad vibes, but also because things change with properties. Like it falls through. Sometimes you put an offer in and they turn around and say you can't have this. Or sometimes the bank comes back and says, I'm not giving you this mortgage. So it doesn't always happen as you think it would happen. So I'd say first, just sign the contract and get your keys, and then you can shout about it on Instagram and wherever you want to tell people. I think secondly, you're not missing out on anything. You're not missing out on these raves, they're not going nowhere. You're not missing out on the restaurants, the holidays. Like, people that celebrate these things and they're flying to Bora Bora and the Maldives because they've worked for this money. Like, these things aren't for now. I mean, sometimes, cool. Of course, 100%, but who wants to be living the life of a facade? And I think with our generation, it's that everybody wants things now, but you got to think about later, the bigger picture. Like, just, if you are serious about investing, wanting a life of financial freedom, you got to budget, you got to prioritize, you got to sacrifice, and that's why I say, like, these things aren't going anywhere. So just take time, that budget, plan, know what you got to save, know what you got to spend, and yeah, I think another tip would be what you say you can afford and what the bank say you can afford are two completely different things. So like I said earlier, don't start viewing properties that are way past what you think you could potentially afford, because sometimes it's just not that, and you can be very heartbroken if you're viewing a property and then you're told later on that you're not allowed to afford it. But yeah, those are mine.
And your best moment?
Oh, my best moment? I don't know. I think
getting the keys, walking in.
No, because I haven't moved into any. No.
Do you know what? You've got 3 properties. I think about that. I just want to really quickly just get the story of how you got 3 properties, girl. Like,
how? So it's literally buying low. Buying low. It's the most important. It means, so buying a property low means literally, I'm not saying auction is the best way, but it's an option. But it's also just about finding the best deals. You're not buying a property at market value. That's one thing you're not doing. Like, you see properties online for 200k. If it's worth 200k, you're offering 180, or you're offering below, like even 170, 160. They say no, it's not for you, because you're not going to be able to pull out your money. Like, it's all about profit. You can buy a house at market value if you're trying to live in it, but that's not going to earn you money in the future. So for me, it's literally like, one house that I bought was worth, I'd say like 260, and I bought it for 92k. No. I lied. Sorry, I lied. It was worth 160. This is in Stoke, but worth 160, and I bought it for Stoke-on-Trent. So the house is worth 160. I bought it for £92,000. Put 15 to 20 grand in it, and I pulled out the actual amount of the house, which was the 160. Do you get it? So you get your money back, and you also get the money that's left in the property. Put tenants in, that's sorted, and you got that money to then put into the next property. Amazing. It's not as easy as it sounds, but you got to read up. You got to read about it. You got to.
But you're buying on a buy-to-let mortgage.
Yeah, it's not. Yes.
You're buying on a buy-to-let mortgage.
On a buy-to-let and not a residential mortgage. Yeah, exactly. So the deposit's a lot higher, but it's literally about, you got to buy low. Like, you can't buy a property at the value it is, and if they say no, that's not where your money is, basically.
I recently saw something about that on TikTok, where someone had their first initial capital, and they kept taking that same capital and just using it to buy more and more and more. TikTok's amazing. I'm obsessed. Like,
but yeah,
the
literally, that's the way. Because imagine every time you buy a house, you're left with nothing after. Do you get it? So you're left with nothing. So for me, I said, this is too long. I did it the first time, and it was like, I can't keep. But yeah. And
quickly, Shanae, what would you say are your top tips and also best moment?
Okay, so my top tips, I would say take the no's, the yes will come. The one thing that people don't know about the mortgage process is that there's an underwriter, and that's a human being who sits there and makes these decisions. Halifax said no to me twice and then ended up saying yes to me. So when I finally got my yes, I was like, oh my God, how come? Nothing really had changed. But maybe, because remember I was a single mom applying for a mortgage, so I like to think it was a Christian, that was someone who got touched, or it was a woman who thought, you know what, I'm going to give this person a chance, because being a single mother making an application puts you at a disadvantage as well, because you've got a higher risk. So I would say, even if you just put in a mortgage application, wait a month, wait 6 weeks, put in another one, because it's not a fixed algorithm, it's a person and their emotions who makes the decision at the end of the day. Another tip I would say would be get an advisor, and someone, if you're not disciplined, get someone to do the discipline with you, and put your money away from you. Don't have access to your money as well. So put it into like bonds and stuff that you can't really touch. One of my top tips actually is that I had Rightmove and Zoopla on my phone, and it was my go-to thing that I did all the time. I was always looking at houses. I would go on viewings and pretend. I would go on viewings with guys that I was dating at the time and pretend that we were doing, oh hello, we're here to the house. Came here to buy nothing. We didn't have the finances, but it was just something that you have to be in the game. If you're about it, you need to be in the game. Go on those viewings and have a look and constantly have that on your mind. So I definitely would say those are my tips for property buying. And also just read a lot, like these ladies said, tap into resources. I did Help to Buy, understand what that means.
Yeah.
Also, when I found like what you said about the deposit, I put £500 on to reserve the flat. I didn't have the deposit ready. And I went to the flat regularly and I just prayed. Me and my son would go there after school and we would just pray. And actually there was delays in the builds. There was delays in the build. And then eventually when I was ready to move in, I had more than the money needed, because I was meant to move in August and it didn't happen till like September. So that's definitely one thing I would say. In terms of best moments, I would say, like these ladies as well, definitely collecting the keys. But in hindsight, actually, I was in a council property first. I was in a housing association property from a very young age. I bought at 25. I think I was in my council flat at like 22, 23. And every time I was getting promotions at work, your rent goes up because of housing benefit, this X, Y, and Z. And I didn't really understand that anyway, because I came from a two-parent household. So I didn't really understand all this benefit stuff. And I remember my housing officer with her cheeky mouth. One day I said to her, like, every time I keep on getting promotions, you guys like raise my rent, so it's impossible for me to save. And she was like, people in council properties don't deserve, no, she didn't say don't deserve, she said people in council properties aren't meant to have savings and they aren't meant to go on holidays. So I'm going to do your budget, we're going to take what you earn. So I said, so you're telling me that I can't save, I want to buy a house? She said, no, people in council properties can't. So it's a trap. It's a trap.
Yeah,
that's
why
it makes
sense.
The Babylonians. They don't, social mobility is not what this government wants, especially for people that look like us or single mothers. So the day that I went in person to give her back the keys to her council flat, because I had made the decision that I was going to move back to my mum's, save for 2 years and buy a house, and I said, hey Sonia, here you go, take back your council property, because no one's never going to tell me I am blessed and highly favoured. No one's ever going to tell me that I'm not entitled to holidays and savings. So I had to swallow my pride, call back mummy and daddy and say I'm coming home, cramp up in the one room with me and my pitney and just stay for the 2 years. And now he's got his own bathroom. If you come to my house, he'll be like, oh, you want to use my bathroom? Like, he doesn't play. So like now we did it. But that's what I'm saying. So I really want to speak to those single mothers and those who may be in council properties. I know it's hard. I know I had the privilege of being able to go back to our mum and dad's house. But they literally, as soon as you start to earn more, that's why they want to tell you stuff like only work 30 hours a week or 16 hours a week and stuff like that. I had side hustles. I worked on the weekends. Like I was grabbing money wherever I could. So I would just say like, I know it's really hard, but you can leave from a council property and buy a property. I did it. I wasn't in my council property for more than like 2 years, because when she told me that, I said, listen, I'm ready to go. So I just really want to encourage people for that.
And it's the best thing you will ever, that no feeling compares to it. To know that you've beaten the odds, no matter how big or how small. And it's sad, it's bittersweet, because it's sad that that's our reality. But the fact that you've got, you know, us as like sisters here who own 1, 2, 3, in the future 4, 5, 6. It's the dopest thing. And honestly, like, if for anyone who's watching this today, just know that it is possible. It's hard sometimes. For some of us, it's easy, but it is possible, and that's literally the start and finish of it.
And I think one thing I just want to add is that I know renting is a thing now, but to have, it's not just owning your house, especially I know a few of you own flats, but when you own a house which is freehold, you own the land. From where we're coming from as black people, I own land in England. This is Queen England. I own land. This is my what I own here. I own the land. So that's very, very, very important as black people. If you now take me back home wherever we came from, me, Temi, I own land in England, and that's how important it is. So it's not just let me get a house. It's you're leaving legacy.
That's a good point to make
you're leaving legacy. So when you now go back, you know, this ancestral something, they can go back and say, you got, you know, your mum lived there 100 years ago. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. So I think that's a lovely point to finish on, really. And I really do. That was an amazing conversation. Thank you so much today, ladies.
You're welcome.
I really hope, and I know that someone back home has definitely took a lot of inspiration. So we someone at home going through the process now, and just to see you guys here, and you've gone through it, you're continuing to build on your portfolio. It's just lovely to see. I just want to say thank you to everyone watching, and make sure that you hit subscribe and join the conversation in the comments, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.